Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you've been well. It is here, the GFC V2 Pro on Shorty. I just got done wrapping up a video where I was kind of talking about miscellaneous other updates to the Tundra, some things that I had to fix and diagnose and debug, and also camper prep. So some of the preparations I did, like to the bedsides and fixing some other stuff before putting the camper on, as well as in that video I also talked about a little bit of the ceiling to keep the elements out of the bed a little better around the tailgate and whatnot. So if you're looking for that information, it is the video that I uploaded just prior to this one. So you can look at the channel, or if you're watching this immediately, it was the video I posted, I don't know, right before this, a couple days before this, I don't know. So that, I talk about that kind of stuff. Now this video, I'm just gonna be really talking about the GFC, talking about the plans for the GFC, and getting some feedback from you guys. So yeah, 4, 5, maybe 6 years ago, I became friends with some of the guys at GFC, one of the owners and a couple of the people that worked there. And then eventually I actually had a GFC RTT, the version 1 on the Poop Cruiser. Now I actually have, I believe it's the version 2. I don't know, they've probably updated this since then, but the version 2 of the rooftop tent, and it's direct mounted. So it's a cool system that they have available for a few vehicle models where you can direct mount the tent for really the lowest profile action on my poor neglected 80 series. I'll give this some love this year. Around that time, I actually went and did a tour of GFC's headquarter facility, manufacturing facility there, and saw how everything was made. This is a company, Go Fast Campers, that they're actually very made in the US, up in Montana. I believe US sourcing on materials. They cut and sew the actual tent portions of the fabric. They bend all of the stuff, assemble, ship, and install out of Montana. A very cool company. I've always thought they've been a cool company, and some rad people over there doing some cool things. Now, I just never had a vehicle that I was ready to put one of these things on. And then I got this, and I wasn't even necessarily thinking GFC on it, but the more I thought about it, I was like, this would be a perfect vehicle to throw the GFC on. So they make a tent, they make the camper. This is kind of their flagship product. This is the thing they're probably most known for. And they also make basically this without the tent that folds up. They make just like a topper version as well. Now, there are a lot of these style of campers out there now. GFC wasn't the first one to make them. They're not the last person to make them, but I would say they played a huge role in really popularizing them. And now there's some out there, some that are a little bit more expensive. There's a few that I think that are cheaper. GFC is definitely one of the cheapest ones, one of the most affordable ones. These are still, just so you know, I believe these start at 8,000 something for the V2 Pros. There are some more affordable ones that are imported from China. But I believe, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing GFC's probably still the cheapest, or just about the cheapest US-made version. And they're known for being extremely rugged and extremely lightweight and extremely well built, with tons of little CNC'd parts. Even the mounting clamps on these things are works of art. So these are certainly, there's no other camper out there that comes close to just the kind of quality and engineering. They use wild like hinge systems that are all contained. They're not just like off the shelf hinges that are put on here that you'll see from some other campers. So the amount of engineering and just little CNC parts in these are insane compared to the competition. They're even into stamping now. So anyway, an amazing product that I've always thought they were very cool. And they fit this truck because, again, like I said, there are more expensive campers. There are more feature feature-rich campers. There are campers that are bigger. You get something like the four-wheel campers Project M that sticks out more and is just bigger and bulkier and heavier, but maybe would be a better camper. So this is kind of, for me, a minimalist camper. It's very thin, it's very streamlined, it's very light, it doesn't affect the handling and the fuel economy as much, but it makes for a great sleep, a great hangout experience as well. So some people go crazy with the interior builds. I will probably do a very minimal build, and the reason is because I still want to use this truck like a truck. I still want to be able to haul crap, sheet goods, whatever Facebook Marketplace finds in here. Here's some examples of what I still want to do with this truck. For example, this, I just went and picked up some 400, I believe they're 405 watt solar panels from a buddy, but 6.5 foot bed, and these take up, this is pushed all the way there, and they take up, you know, basically the whole width between the wheel well. So I'm out on Facebook Marketplace and whatnot and doing crap around the homestead and just grabbing stuff, and having the full height and the full width of the bed is really nice. Obviously, I can use my other Tundra for this, but that is a short bed, and this is also a short bed, but a longer short bed, 6.5 foot bed. So that's why I think I'm gonna keep my interior pretty slim, and then if I do both sides, pretty slim on both sides, because I want to have the full 4 feet just for easy sheet good transportation. But this is definitely one example of, should have just hooked up a trailer, obviously, but we made it home just fine. These are 16-foot cattle panels, and they're very strapped in here, have tied down with multiple tie downs back into every tie down point basically. So I wasn't worried about them falling out, just grazing the ground, which I don't think they actually did. I kind of held on here. Maybe this little corner feels maybe a little bit worn down. The bag didn't rip at all. I don't even think it touched, honestly. So this is a load bag, but this is actually beyond even the load bag. So I had to extend this with another strap here and then use this little hitch extension. And this is, I'm sure, overloaded there. I may regret it. I might have bent it. Maybe I messed up my hitch, because this is probably, these are like 40 pounds. I have 20 of them, so 800 pounds with most of that weight resting right on here. So it's probably at least 600 pounds all the way out, cantilevered to here. So I'm sure that is well into danger zone and maybe even borderline stupid. So probably don't do that. But I do some stupid stuff every once in a while. But anyway, all that to say, all I was wanting to show was the reason I may not do, like, you know, probably won't do much of a camper build in here. Let's get the camera out of the wind a little bit. Is stuff like this. So these are 50-inch wide, so it's actually beyond the width that you can even fit between the wheel wells. But most things are 48 inches. So I want to keep at least, I want to be able to put sheet goods down in here, because this is actually my longest bed truck, 6.5 foot bed. My Tacoma's a 5 foot, my other Tundra is a 5.5 foot. So I still want to keep this truck available to do some truck stuff, such as this. So yeah, I don't want to build the cabinetry out so much in here that I just, you know, can't do that kind of stuff. Or if I do, I want to make it really easy to remove. But I'll probably do like a really narrow, so I can still have 48-inch width kind of cabinetry, more so storage over here. And then, you know, maybe throw a fridge in and, you know, a Pelican case or whatever. These Helinox chairs, just in case you're wondering, are perfect hangs without popping the top on this thing. And then in here, then I keep open, again, for fridges or whatever, or if I want to put some, you know, a power supply like that one, or, you know, I just got a big cooler, or I just got gear, or, you know, I put some mountain bikes on the inside, or whatever it is, I want to keep it pretty much open. You know, I can spray it out with a hose or whatever and keep that basically functionality of the truck while having kind of a minimal camper. So we're talking about that modularity aspect. Let me thank today's sponsor, Bluetti, and talk about this system. I've talked about stuff like this plenty of times in the past, as you guys know. This is their Elite 200. It's 2600 watt capable and has 2073.6 watt hours of capacity. So something like this is actually plugged in right here to the cigarette lighter, charging from my dual battery setup. I have a dual battery setup in this truck, but again, I'm not going to put a big induction cooktop and a microwave. I'm not building this out to be a crazy camper like that. So I didn't put an inverter or anything on that setup. So at times when either I need an inverter, I need more power, maybe I'm going to an event and I'm running extra stuff, or maybe I'm bringing a ground tent and I want to take this out of the car and set it up over somewhere else to power a diesel heater or a TV or whatever it is. This is the setup that I would use for that. Something portable, something that has good capacity, something that has the inverter built in, something that has the MPPT built in as well, so that I can bring a separate solar array and charge this thing on the go when I'm not charging it from the vehicle. I like when they have a form factor that you can use to sit on as well. And it's wrapped into a little unit that you can take out of the truck and put in the truck as you need it, because I don't want to lug this around all the time. So this is a cool setup for that. Let me give you a quick rundown of it. Has 4 20 amp outlets. You can always plug an extension cord or a power strip into this to get more plugs, but this is really beyond the capacity of your standard household outlet. Most household outlets are 15 amp. So this is 20 amp up to 2600 watts on 120 volt AC alternating current. It also has 4 USBs, 2 of them are USB-C PDs that are up to 100 watt actually, and then just 2 USB-As at 15 watt. Has your standard kind of cigarette lighter outlet here. They moved with this unit, it's nice, to less proprietary plugs and just to your standard XT60 input. So that'll handle your car cigarette lighter charging or your solar input. And then the AC is actually standardized as well. Just your standard plug, no power brick, nothing like that. Just plug that in. Even has a ground lug over here. You can charge this thing from 0 to 80% in, I believe, like 1.1 hours with a combination of 1800 watts of AC input. And then when you add solar, I believe it's 2400 watt total max charging capacity. Solar alone, it can handle up to 1000 watts of solar input. Relatively portable. Again, I believe this one shrunk by 40% in dimensions from its predecessor, and it's life PO4, so it's good for, like, they say, 15 plus years of usage realistically. This is 6,000 plus cycles where you're keeping more than 80% of the battery capacity. So the battery tech on these things now is insane. Use them every day and don't even worry about it. Anyway, setup like this I think is great and super cool to just be able to throw on the back of the truck when you need it. So keeping things modular, agile, lightweight, and let's just kind of get into some of the features of the camper. And then I'll get into basically plans for it. So this one has the covers on here. I'm not really going to talk about all of the upgrades of the V2 Pro versus the V2 or versus the V1. There's plenty of information on their site and they have some good videos about it. But this is, again, kind of the latest and greatest iteration of it. A lot of the stuff that you loved from the previous versions, but with a bunch of notable upgrades. This is on the 6.5 foot bed. Let's pop everything out here. Again, I talked about weather sealing and whatnot in the previous video, but you can open her up like this. They like to call this mode cabana, which really from the inside, great setup with views all around, obviously easy to access in and out of the bed. Gives you a little bit of weather protection. These kind of can act as, rain awnings, sorta, but allow a nice breeze in here. So that's just, in the bed without the top even popped. So then kind of an easy system here. It's easier with two hands, but this is a little spring detent that holds this from opening. So you can basically pull that out and then pop that open on each side. And then this has assisted struts that'll just pop you up like that. I just kept these windows opened up. And what we have in here is the sleeping area. So it has basically, they call it the transformer floor. It has this section's removable, this section's removable, that section is removable. I'll show you how that all works. So I can show you from the top actually as well. So this can pull out, push that out of the way, and then you have access to the camper down below. So you can access the tent area either from an optional ladder that you can go in through the side. You could climb up here through the back if you want, but their more popular entry point is really at night when everything's closed up, or during the day when everything is open. You can climb up through here. And then to get up, if you have a cooler or something down here, there's actually a company I think that sells a little step attachment up here, or if you got two arms, you can just kind of hoist yourself up. But then you can get up into the top, and then you're in your sleeping compartment. So again, the only slight inconvenience in my mind is to get back down into there, you do need to remove one of these floor sections to get down. So you're either doing that or you're going out the ladder or you're going out the back, and that's kind of how you get in. I'll show you if I remember a little bit later, but when this is closed, there's just enough lip on the ledge of the truck bed where actually I can climb up onto the tire, onto the truck bed, and in here with no ladder. So that is, it's not an ideal scenario, but I can still get in and out if I need to. Now the removable floor is very cool. It's one of the selling points of a camper like this, the GFC, and others, in that when you're in the bed of your truck, like I am, now you can completely stand up and have a bunch of room in here to change, to hang out, whatever. So let me slide these off to the back and show you how that works. So now with both sections, the single long and then the two squares pushed back, it goes to push back basically beyond flush of this fixed panel. So the fixed panel takes up that much room on a 6.5 foot bed. I believe on something like a Tacoma on a 5 foot bed, this panel basically is there because it extends more over the roof of the vehicle, and there's less room in here, obviously. So here we have a little lip still on the inside of a 6.5 foot bed. But if you had a 5 foot bed, this would effectively, the 5 foot bed would end, about here, and the whole bed, the glass of the truck essentially would be right here. So the whole bed would be wide open. So it's a little effective differences there. But I think you can kind of tell now there's a lot of room for activities. You could have a bunch of people hang out in here. Now there's no kind of height restrictions in how you're sitting or standing or changing or whatever. And with the windows opened up, now we have access views out here, out the back, out here, and it really, opens up this area and allows a lot of options now for your truck bed. So you sleep up here, hang out down here. When you want to open it up all the way for, full, big, tall hangs, as you can see, it's probably about 8 feet to the peak up here. Well, you can't see, but it's beyond what I can even reach. I can touch here, but not back in the corner. And then I can stand up all the way at the end, and I still have room over here. So that's one of the coolest things about having one of these campers, is the ability to transform this and hang out. I realize I'm talking way too long. I'm not gonna get through all these features. It'll take hours at the rate I'm going. So you got your bug netting, you got a lot of really nice ways to roll this up. These windows, I think on the V2 Pro, open up significantly more than the previous editions. And then you got little corner vents in here with this actually pretty clever system where you can kind of put this semi-rigid strap in here and close this up, and then it allows this vent here without allowing water to get in. So some pretty slick little designs and features like that. And then there are some extra vents up in the top corners as well. Zippers that won't rattle, tons of little places to attach more gear. There's actually a huge third-party kind of aftermarket support for these campers because there's so many of them on the road right now. So a lot of companies making accessories. There's little points where you can add more things. I'll probably add L-track to these upper rails basically, to where I can just hang stuff like, this is Mammoth sent me a few sleeping bags out. They're my style too. The orange bag, the actual sleeping bag is this kind of olive foliage green. Anyway, I think I'll just add a bunch of hooks to just hang stuff, you know, along the corners and sides here, lightweight stuff that can just kind of bounce around. That way I can hook and unhook, or if I need to take this in a different tent or something, I'll just come in here and grab it. So it's kind of the ethos of my build is modular, minimal, lightweight, you know, not a bunch of permanent stuff. And, you know, it's easier. I don't have a ton of time on my hands to build things out. Lighting. There is the built-in lighting that is, I believe it's an option, but my model does have it. So there's a white light. This is probably 3,000 to 4,000 Kelvin. And then there's a red light. And then there's a combination of red and the white that kind of makes a kind of an amber light, I guess. So those lights are all around here. There's also a separate control for a separate light that is up here. Same controls, dimmable as well. So you can get nice and dim, nice and bright. And that all currently is running through just that cigarette lighter. But you could hardwire that as well, or do, you know, a variety of different kind of options to power the lights. But those are super nice to have those built in as well. And then so it creates a nice kind of pass through, obviously, for ventilation. But if you're hanging out, people on the outside can still talk to you and see you while you're in there. And I don't know, it's just, it's great for hangs. I have some friends that have GFCs, and I've always wanted one. This one does have the new Turbo Nap mattress, which is like, it's kind of crazy. It's like a gel. You can tell there's like different densities throughout here, but it's very jelly, like less memory foam and more jelly, but kind of memory foam. I don't know, I've never really felt a mattress like this, but it's very comfortable. Your needs will always differ depending on if you're a side sleeper, back sleeper, or whatever, but this is far more comfortable than your average rooftop tent mattress. I forget if this is an upgrade or if it's standard on the V2 Pros, but you can upgrade your old mattresses with the Turbo Nap as well. I believe it's 3 inches, if I didn't say that before. These are all removable, washable. These square cushions actually have basically bags. You can throw bedding or jackets or whatever in this underneath as well. And then some people take these off and like